Fredrick and I had been married for 10 years. In the beginning, he was everything I had ever dreamed of in a husband: kind, caring, supportive, loving. He stood by me through life's ups and downs, or so I thought. But when my parents died, everything changed. I found out he was cheating on me a week after their passing, and instead of confronting him, I waited for the day I received my inheritance. Grief consumed me, a heavy fog that clouded my days. My parents' sudden death left me hollow, and at first, Fredrick was there, helping with the funeral, holding me as I cried, reminding me to eat. But soon, the warmth in his touch faded. The once comforting presence of my husband turned cold, distant. At first, I convinced myself it was just stress, that we were both overwhelmed by loss. But as the weeks passed, his excuses multiplied. Late nights at work, unanswered calls, the way he avoided my gaze when I reached for him. Something was wrong. Then, one evening, as I sifted through my parents' old papers, his phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, a name I didn't recognize. "I miss you. When can we talk?" My pulse pounded in my ears. I told myself it was nothing. But my hands had a mind of their own, picking up his phone, scrolling through their messages. What I found shattered me. Sweet words, inside jokes, intimacies we hadn't shared in months. I confronted him that night, feigning innocence as I casually asked about the message. His lie was quick: "She's just a colleague." But his voice wavered, his eyes darted. A trained observer wasn't needed to see the guilt. I knew. Still, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went to bed that night with silent resolve. I had already lost my parents. I wouldn't let him take anything else from me. Instead of reacting, I started planning. The next day, I put on my mask. I acted as the grieving yet loving wife while Fredrick continued his charade. He thought he was fooling me. He wasn't. I focused on the one thing that mattered: my inheritance. My parents had left me everything: their properties, their investments, their wealth. I was their sole heir, and Fredrick had no idea just how much I was about to inherit. I worked with lawyers, ensuring every legal protection was in place. I secured every asset, locked every loophole. And in the background, I gathered evidence, hiring a private investigator, collecting proof of his affair. If he thought he could betray me and walk away with a share of my fortune, he was sorely mistaken. I waited. Let him believe he had won. Let him think he was in control. Then came the estate meeting. The day everything changed. Fredrick walked into the lawyer's office beside me, oblivious. He listened with mild interest as the lawyer detailed the vast wealth I was inheriting. I saw the flicker of greed in his eyes, the silent calculation of how he could benefit, and then, I gave the signal. The lawyer handed me a folder, and I turned to Fredrick. For the first time in weeks, I looked him in the eyes, truly looked at him. Then, I slid the divorce papers across the table. "It's over, Fredrick." My voice was steady, unwavering. "I know about her. I know everything." The color drained from his face. His lips parted, searching for an excuse, a lie, anything to salvage the situation. But I didn't let him speak. "You will hear from my lawyer, and as for my inheritance?" I leaned in slightly, my tone colder than it had ever been. "You won't see a penny." The silence that followed was deafening. His betrayal had been my breaking point. But this moment? This was my liberation. I had waited. I had planned. And now, I was free.